Dabarim, chapter by chapter, verse by verse.
All right, Shabbat Shalom again, everyone, and welcome to our afternoon study, our afternoon Torah study. We are in the book of Deuteronomy, and we've been seeing Moshe, by the direction of Yah, give the children of Israel final instructions before crossing over into the promised land. And this new generation is receiving these instructions on how to live, and more importantly, how not to live. Because Yah sees the other nations around them and doesn't want them to emulate the things that they are doing. So some of the things he's speaking against or telling them not to do is in direct reference to what those other nations are doing. He's saying there needs to be a division. There needs to be a separation. There needs to be a distinction between those that are mine, those that are my sons, those that are my daughters, those that call on my name. There's a difference between how we live, how we dress, how we eat, how we act, how we treat one another, how we live in a community versus some of the things that they were seeing with these surrounding nations. So everything in form of instruction is very important, from civility to justice, to rights. We talked last week about firstborn rights, inheritance rights. We talked about the rebellious son. And we used some examples to make sure that we understood those things clearly. Because this is the Torah, this is his instructions. If we don't get anything else in scripture, we have to get this, because this is the foundation behind which everything else makes sense. The Gospels don't make sense if we don't have Torah, if we don't understand the instructions. The letters, the epistles don't make sense if we don't understand where Paul is pulling these ideas from. Messiah's words, if we separate them from what we have in Torah, are a completely separate faith. So that's why we have to always see Torah as our foundation. And it's very important that we go through and we understand it. So we left off last week, we looked at the tail end of chapter 21, where he goes into these different laws that are necessary for the community in which they reside in. And it's very important that we also understand them, because we are that community. We are supposedly the set apart ones. We are the ones that can be distinguished distinctively by the things we do and by the things we don't do. So these are very important for us to grasp. They're very important for us to understand, not only how they see it, how they saw it, how they received it, what their response was, and how they acted, and what their behavior was. But like them, so we shall also be. This is the only way that we are recognized as his. So we looked at a couple verses last week in chapter 22, but we're going to start at the beginning again. Matter of fact, I'm going to start reading verse 22 of chapter 21. It says, if a man has committed a sin deserving of death, capital punishment, and he is put to death, and you hang him on a tree, his body shall not remain overnight on the tree, but you shall surely bury him that day. so that you know, so that you do not defile the land which Yahuah your Elohim is giving you as an inheritance, for he who is hanged is accursed of Elohim. And we dug into that a little bit, and we clearly understood that this was not hanging from the neck, but rather an impaling after the death of stoning, and that the body should not remain. The same way with Messiah on the tree, came down and was put into a borrowed tomb. And we know that, he borrowed it because he gave it back. He wasn't in there when they went to find him. So praise God for that. But we want to pick up in chapter 22. I just wanted to kind of preface the whole idea, because this is a community that he's speaking to. These are community laws. You know, what happens inside the gates. All of these things were to be in the forefront of their minds as they took those two hanger laws. Love Yahuah, your Elohim, with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your might. Love your neighbor as you yourself are loved. All of these two hang all the law and the prophets, meaning that everything within the Torah has to do with loving Yah first and loving your neighbor, loving your fellow man, loving your brother, loving your sister. So let's dig into this. For our newcomers, what we usually do is we have someone read a particular portion. The person who reads then has the first opportunity to share what either stands out to them, or a question they might have, or a thought or an idea, before we then go back in and dig up everything from verse by verse through the chapter. So we're going to try to get through chapter 22. It's about 30 verses. So let's look at the first 7 verses, and we'll have a reader read the first 7, and then we'll go back through and collectively explain. So who's going to be my first reader today? No volunteers today? All right, Alexandria, thank you. I thought my mic was broke for a minute.
Shabbat Shalom, Brother Rod, Elder Rod. You want me to read from Deuteronomy 22, 1 through 7?
1 through 7, that's correct.
Okay, and I'm reading from the scriptures.
Okay.
When you see your brother's ox or his sheep straying away, you shall not hide yourself from them. Return them to your brother without fail. And if your brother is not near you, or if you do not know him, then you shall bring it to your own house, and it shall be with you until your brother seeks it. Then you shall return it to him. And so you do with his donkey, and so you do with his garment, and so you do with whatever your brother loses, which he has lost and you have found. You are not allowed to hide yourself. When you see your brother's donkey or his ox fall down on the way, you shall not hide yourself from them. Help him raise them without fail. A woman does not wear that which pertains to a man, nor does a man put on a woman's garment, for whoever does this is an abomination to Yahuah, your Elohim. When you come upon a bird's nest along the way, in any tree or on the ground, with the young ones or eggs, with the mother sitting on the young or on the eggs, do not take the mother with the young. Let the mother go without fail, and take the young for yourself, so that it might be well with you, and that you shall prolong your days. Hallelujah.
Praise Yah. Hallelujah. Anything in particular stand out to you?
Well, it goes back to what you started off with in regards to the greatest commandments, that we are to love Yahuah first and to love our neighbors. This is definitely about how we are to love our neighbors and giving us guidance to the smallest thing. It just really encourages us in all ways and manners in how we can. It gives you every imagination to how we can do that. And I think it's so interesting how it ties to our other earlier lessons today. Though we were specifying what we can and cannot do on the Shabbat, I think it also, I think what it's really trying to enlighten or illuminate for us is that Yahuah came as an example, and he says this, and so we are to do as he does. And how you said, if you don't understand and know the Torah, then what he says doesn't make sense. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well put. So many things, garner my attention from just reading these. But one of the scathing, Yahuah always in his instructions goes before us in thought, right? It's almost like you're thinking something and then, he says it so that in case you had this question, or in case this problem arose, he then answers it for you. Sometimes, you can read a portion of the scripture and, in studying, you say, well, the next verse will tell you why he said it, because he goes before us. But I find it amazing that he has to tell us how we should treat, our brothers and our sisters, and Israel had to be instructed on how to live the correct way. They were surrounded by nations that, like we said in the introduction, didn't live the way Yahuah prescribed. They came out of slavery, out of bondage, in a nation that was opposite Yahuah's instructions. And they were supposed to be the light, the guiding light. As we read even in the Brit Hadashah, the New Testament, where he says, you are a city on a hill, showing the light to all men that came from him. By our expression, by our behavior, by our lifestyle, we shine as he shines. We become the living epistle. I heard someone say earlier today that he requires us to be. So we have this portion of scripture where he's telling us, you shall not see your brother's ox or his sheep going astray. And I could think of, a few months back where we had an issue with our fence, and I think we had gone outside, and one of us, either June or I, or maybe Darius, thought we closed the gate to our fence, and we did not. So it was open. So later on that following day, our dog got out. So he started roaming, he roamed up outside of our driveway and started to go down the street. Well, our neighbor was driving down the street and he saw him and he said, oh man, that's my neighbor's dog. So he brought him back. He said, and Judah is our dog's name, followed him all the way up to the gate, and he got in. And as the neighbor walked closer to close it, then Judah was back in his domain and he started to growl at him. So he said he waited till he ran around the other side and came and closed the gate. But had he not done that, we could have lost our dog. He could have got hit by a car. He could have ran away. And it was just a small reminder. 2 weeks ago, that same neighbor, he has two dogs, two big dogs, by the way, and he had his one of the slats on his fence. He has like a slatted gate, a slatted fence. Was broken, so the dog was sticking his head out and eventually was going to be able to get out, right? So I sent Darius up to, to knock on his door. but he wasn't home. So I said, okay, well, next time I see him, or I said, when I leave, I'll try to see if I see him. But then the following day I ran into him. I told him, I said, I sent my son up to fix your gate. And he said, oh, Joe, which was the neighbor on my other side, went over and hammered the slat back in. And I was like, he went even a step further than I did, but that's the way it's supposed to be, right? That's the way it's supposed to be. But, ultimately everyone doesn't think that way, and there needs to be instruction on the things we should do. Some people covet what you have and want to take what you have. So they would love to see you lose something that is your car rolling down the street, and they have a chance to stop it. Well, the ox, was something that did the work of the land. If you see your brother's ox or his sheep going astray and you hide yourself, you act like you don't see it. Like, we need to stop and think about these things. Do we do those things? Do we act like we don't see some things about the neighbor we don't like because they blast their hip hop music or their country music or their rock music too loud? Do we engage with them when there's an opportunity to? Are we hospitable in any kind of way to them? Our family members, are we friends with them? Do we try to get them? Do we invite them to our homes? Are we neighborly? If something is wrong, if we see something going on with their children, do we just say, oh, those kids are bad? Or do we say, listen, I saw your son, I saw your daughter doing this, maybe we want to correct that. Do we correct it? And then tell their parents, like, are we a true community? And I think these things are necessary for our understanding when it comes to living in a community, understanding you are your brother's keeper, understanding that you have to be truly what Yahuah is to you, to them. And he has to instruct us to do these things, and we need to take heed to these things. Plenty of hands. I'm gonna come to Sheena and then Jadiel and Rick.
Shabbat Shalom. This verse, the one that you're talking about, in terms of, like, if you see something of your neighbors and returning it, I feel like this comes to me a lot because I'm very, like, quiet and off to myself. So if I see something, usually I would just, like, leave it. Someone else will find it or come back for it. But this verse always reminds me, let me get my neighbor's donkey, and I'll either return it or I'll pick it up or I'll take it to, like, a main office or send out an email. I found this in the bathroom, or I saw this in a hallway. If it's yours, come to this room. Because there is, like, a sense of responsibility. When you see something, you don't just leave it alone. And it also reminds me of when Yahushua was speaking in Luke 10:27, that whole account, when he was saying, who is my neighbor? Right. And so instead of deciding who you show kindness to, just show kindness. It's not like this person, you would expect this person to show kindness because of their position, but everyone has the ability to show kindness to whoever they come in contact with. And so I'm always reminded when I see something. Now, before I used to have to, like, remember the verse, but now when I see it, I automatically remember it. But there's a responsibility you have to do the right thing, whether you know whose it is or not.
That's it, the responsibility. I know when I used to, not so much here, but when I used to live in Philly, there would be, the kids would be outside playing, and there will be, every now and then, there's going to be a skirmish, there's going to be a fight, there's going to be kids, disagreeing, and you had parents just standing around watching. Now they're filming them on their phone. I'm like, shame on you. You stop that fighting. You stop those kids from trying to hurt each other. You get them back to playing with each other like they're supposed to. We have a responsibility to do that. And the communities have gotten away from that. And that's why it's running away from us, right? So we do have that responsibility, and more so in our household of faith. that needs to be even more so. So praise Yah for that. Brother Jadiel?
Praise Yah. And I wanted to bring this out. To everything that you're saying is literally what people refer to as the spirit of the law. You see what I'm saying? It's a principle that applies to every single thing in your action, in your situation. You know, it's not the letter says ox, right? That's what the letter says. But to understand this law, you would have to grasp the principle of it, which is what is referred to as the so-called spirit of the law. Spirit of the law is not without an action or requirement, or a duty. I would say duty, like because the responsibility is a duty, and Yah by His commandments is teaching us duty, like what we have a duty to do for our brethren, for our society, for our community, for the kingdom, for the assembly. We have a responsibility for each other on a level of helping each other maintain salvation, helping each other maintain righteousness. You see what I'm saying? So many people, they look at the law and they're looking at, okay, what is said to do? And this is like, it's not what it's said to do, is how to think, how to be. You see somebody lose something, your thought is, let me go help, not, well, the command says I got to go get the ox, so let me go get the ox. Like, no, is, oh man, my brother is losing something, and I want to help him maintain what he has. It may be his only ox. It may be, you may know he doesn't have anything else and you want to help him maintain what he has. So we have to make sure that we're responsible and that we're involved with each other, in order to be an actual assembly, an actual people, an actual kingdom. You have to be involved with one another. Yah is not going to have these kingdoms where you have the peasants, you have the criminals, and you have the righteous and the nobles. Yah is going to have a kingdom of priests. He's not going to have a kingdom divided with people with different types of personalities. Everybody's going to reflect the image of Yah and His Son. And so I really appreciate your breakdown of this, because this is what we always talk about when we're reading the New Testament, but many people don't even see it here, and it's right there in front of us. But praise Yah.
Praise Yah. All glory to the Father. Man, listen, the responsibility you're talking about, is necessary. Like, hide yourself. That literally means ignore. Like, ignore something that's going awry. And like Jadiel said, the responsibility isn't just the ox, it's whatever is in your epic of time. Every individual in the community bears a responsibility, right? To uphold justice in the community. Paul says it this way in Galatians 6:2, bear one another's burdens so to fulfill the law of Messiah. Man, what are we talking about? What is he talking about? He's talking about the same thing Yahuah is giving instruction to the nation of Israel. We bear that responsibility to one another. We are to love our neighbor as we ourselves are loved. Brother Rick, thank you, Jadiel.
I find it very interesting that this foundation of this topic is very prevalent today. But as I'm looking at this, and my love for the left tabs and how they're placed in here.
I do.
And again, we see the importance of this covenant bond, if you will, that we are supposed to have with our brother. It begins in the very beginning, and it says, and you shall see a left tab your brother's ox, a left tab his sheep go astray. So there's a covenant even in this that Yahuah is placing on this, which goes back to loving Yahuah and loving our brother. That covenant that we are one with one another. If we are caught as a true body, as a true assembly, then this is what he's telling us, that we can't turn our backs on what's going on and pretend that we don't see it. If something's going, like you said, Brother Jadiel, protecting your brother's stuff, looking out for your brother and your sister, so as it says here, that it shall be well with until they come and seek after it. until you can restore it to them again. That's the whole purpose. So if you look at really that in the context of itself, a lot of people want to keep it for themselves. Look what I got, and that's kind of that covetousness, where you don't see that in this kind of wording. It's all covenant agreement, which we're seeing with these Aleph Tavs, and we see it again in verse 4, where he says, and you shall not see Aleph Tav your brother's ass or his ox fall down by the way, and hide yourself from them. You shall surely help lift it up again. It's interesting how the animals are involved in this. Even this morning, as we were seeing, about rescuing an animal that's fallen, and we see that here, or into a ditch or whatever it might be. But it's all because of this established covenant that we see again in verse 7. It says, but you shall in any ways let Aleph Tav, that damn bird, that bird go, and take Aleph Tav the young. So if you're looking at it, there's even an agreement down to the basis of what you shall take and what you should not from nature. It's really a pretty cool when you see all of this put together, and the structure of it all, and how it continues to come around again and again and again. But final point I want to point out is interesting how verse 5 is right in the middle of that, and how that is so prevalent today, that a woman should not wear that which pertains to a man, neither shall a man put on woman's garments. It's an abomination. Do we see that in our view today of where the world's at? It's amazing. And this isn't something that's accepted within the community of Yahuah. So this is just another, of course, another sign of who is his. So I just seen that. It was really sticking out to me, the covenant that I see, that covenant bond with my brother, to look out for him and make sure I got his back, and to help him in any way I can, even to lift up his animal, so praise Yahuah for his community standards. Yeah.
Yeah. We'll definitely get to verse 5 in a minute, but I like what you said about the covenant, because a lot of people, the instructions, right? These are instructions, but it's also covenant. Like you said, this is a stipulation of the covenant. So it's not, do these things. This is what you do. No, this is, if you are in covenant, this is your behavior. Like, it's also a mirror. It's also a check, like, to line myself up. Am I doing these things? Like, am I trying to take care of lost property and return it to even someone I don't know, but I know it's not mine. I saw the guy drop it. I know he's going to be back here tomorrow. Let me hold it for him. Or do I pick up his wallet and say, man, I got some lunch money now, No, that's not yours. That's his. Brother, sister, did you just drop this? Even if you don't know them, right? And some people, and there's deception on that side too, because some people say, yeah, that's mine. Okay, what's your name? Open up the wallet to make sure it's theirs, that's the check. But the point is, this becomes our behavior. These things become the actions that prove we are in covenant. If we are inspected, we're told to inspect one another to see if that brother, that sister is truly in the faith. How can we tell? Because you exhibit these types of things. It's covenant. I like that. Praise God. Sister Kim Free from Alabama.
Hey, I wanted to comment, just make kind of like a quick comment on the thing about, like, us turning a blind eye to stuff. I feel like, obviously a lot more recent in history, how society's pushing a lot of things, like mindsets on people. For a long time, since I was a kid, I know TV shows and family members and friends, and just at school, everyone pushing this idea of minding your business, act like you don't see anything. Like they push it on us. So it's like to a point where you see something that could be absolutely terrible happening and you know it's wrong and that you should do something or say something, but you turn. You act like you don't see it.
Yeah.
And that's something that's been pushed on to, I feel like, through like TV, social media shows and stuff like that.
Absolutely. And I think, the very good analogy and example, because what happens is that you desensitize society to structure. You desensitize society to
go against the laws.
Right. Or not necessarily go against the laws, but to, turning a blind eye allows there to be mayhem. Like sitting on a bus, seeing something wrong, seeing somebody slipping their fingers into somebody's pocket and not saying anything.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It allows the civil unrest to rise up, But if there is citizen activity, if there is, someone that's watching when you don't think they're watching, that catches you, it can be a deterrent from trying to do those things. If everyone knows that I'm going to protect my neighbor, he's not going to do anything when my neighbor's not there if he sees me standing there. If he knows I don't care, he's going to do whatever. If someone in my neighborhood walks up to my neighbor's back door, I should say, can I help you? Are you looking for someone? Nah, I'm Eric's cousin. Oh, well, Eric's not home. Do you have a key? Those questions ought to be probing, not, like you said, mind your business. We help each other that way. I remember, this is a funny story. I remember when I think I was probably around maybe 10, maybe. So my brother would have been 8. And so my mom used to take us to her church, right? But when she was sick, she would send us up to the church on the corner, for their Sunday school, so there would be a constant feeding, right? So we're on our way to this corner church, and this man comes out this woman's house, and he's smoking a cigarette, and he throws it on the ground, and he keeps walking. So me and my brother walk over to we're walking towards the cigarette to pick it up. We didn't see the lady standing on the porch, so we bend down and said, "What y'all doing?" Scared a bit, but what out of us, and we said nothing, and just kept on walking, But that was an example of, the village keeping an eye on you, like when your parents weren't around. Like they don't do that now. You do that now, the kids will cuss you out, or tell you to mind your business, But you got to make it a point to do those things, and say those things, because we have to make sure that in our experience, in our vicinity, we are upholding Yahuah's law, which requires us to make sure we don't stay quiet and we do say things, and it stretches beyond even what we think, So we got to keep reading. But let's go to the hands, Brother Charles, and then Alexandria.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, the sister just talked. She reminded me of the world has a law system, and y'all have a law system, and it's 2 different systems, and that's how I see it. The world doesn't uphold this law, but it wants you to uphold it, but they don't keep it. But Yah, he never breaks his law. He never goes against it. He stays firm, and it protects us. So yeah. But I'm finna bring up verse 6, right? But I just got to say, just in case someone is going to watch this Deuteronomy video when you put it out, some people may hear things and they don't quite pay attention. They'll just literally go off what you say. You might have a neighbor that might have a dog, and I'm surprised the brother was able to go over there and nail it up, because you might mess around and try to go take your neighbor's dog back, and when you get out, you might get a nice little bit of chunk bit out you. You got to be careful.
Right. Yeah, no. I think, and that's why I said, when, my neighbor told me, he said, when we started to get near your house, he said your dog was following me. Then he ran ahead of me as we got close to the house. He ran into the gate, and I started to walk towards the gate. He said, then he growled at me. And yeah, he would have if he would have kept going. And his dogs too. He has a boxer and a Cane Corso. But yeah, no, I think the neighbor nailed his thing shut when the dogs weren't there. But yeah, absolutely, that's true. But I think outside of their habitat, most dogs are friendly. They get real territorial within their habitat and around their owners like that.
All right. Okay. Yeah. So verse 6, I was reading this last week or something like that. And I was questioning about verse 6. It says, if a bird nest happens to be before you along the way in the tree or on the ground with young ones or eggs, with the mother sitting on the young or on the eggs, you shall not take the mother with the young. You shall surely let the mother. Did you read 7? Y'all read 7 already?
We read all the way to 7, yeah.
Okay, yeah. And it says, you should surely let the mother go and take the young for yourself, that it may be well with you and that you may prolong your days. So I can't even see literally, physically what that means, but also spiritually, I can't see what that means. So that's my question. Why would he?
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, let's do 5 first, and then we'll explain 6 completely. Cool. Got you. All right. Yeah. Yep. We'll talk about that. So, verse 4, it says, "You shall not see your brother's donkey or his ox." Oh, I'm sorry, Alexandria, and then we'll continue. I'm sorry.
Oh, if you need to continue, I am just in the study right now. But
yeah, I wanted to hit you before we continue.
Yes, I appreciate it. I wanted to do, because this is all tying together. I just love when the Ruach HaKodesh does this. Jadiel had mentioned the spirit of the law, and it reminded me of the fruits of the spirit. And I went back to Galatians 5. And again, chapter 5, verse 14, for the entire Torah is completed in one word, in this, you shall love your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah.
And then I just jumped down to 22, but the fruit of the spirit is, going to, understanding that we are led by the spirit through understanding of the Torah. And then it comes into the fruit of the spirit. But the fruit of the spirit is love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, trustworthiness, gentleness, self-control. Against such there is no Torah. And those who are of Messiah have impelled the flesh with its passions and the desires. And if we live in the spirit, let us also walk in the spirit. And I guess I'm bringing this up as an example for what we're reading in Deuteronomy. When we are walking in the spirit, it is going to be automatic that we are taking care of our neighbors in our communities and following through with those difficult moments of even trying to visit someone's house and their dog is barking at them. It is going to be instilled in us to do those things. So I just wanted to bring that up. Thank you.
Absolutely. The exhibition of our character is the very ID. It's our identification. That was one of the main problems Messiah had with the Pharisees. The way they presented themselves, the phylacteries they wore, the crowns on their forehead, the fringes and the tzitzits, but they had a heart of stone. They were jealous of Messiah. They were scheming to catch him breaking Yah's Torah based upon the man-made Torah that they had, going above and beyond Yah's laws, So what is your true character? What is your true behavior? I see you smiling, but you got a knife behind your back, and as soon as I turn around, you're gonna stab me. Like, I'd rather you frown at me, so at least I know I've got to watch my back. You trying to trick me. They're called hypocrites. That's literally, you are acting. You are wearing a costume. You are putting on a performance, Messiah said, on a stage. Hypocrites, right? You are hot and cold. I spew thee out of your mouth, out of my mouth, You're lukewarm. All of these ideas come from this same place of, you are not exhibiting the character of one that says he believes, one that says he trusts, one that says he follows my laws, precepts, and commandments. So absolutely fruit of the Spirit, absolutely, the spirit of the law being exhibited through the character of a man. What is the measure of a man? I could tell my wife I love her. If I don't talk to her right, if I don't treat her right, if I don't make sure she's taken care of, my children the same way. I have to show them, love. I have to take care of them. I have to provide for them. I have to direct and correct them. That's love too. Prevent some things, stop some things, say these things can't happen. These things can't be a part of you. Don't do that, do this. That's what Yah is telling us. We are his children. So if we are in his community, this is definitely what we have to exhibit. Verse 4.
Brother Rod, if I may add just one other thing.
Sure.
And I know I have shared my walk and my difficulties from coming from my old place of where I worshiped before and coming into this new walk and learning to be a part of the community. I could not do this without walking in the Spirit because of those injuries and the trust of Yahuah, Yahushua HaMashiach, guiding and believing in the Ruach HaKodesh upon you. I could not do this. To be a part of the assembly of Yahuah, it took a great deal for me to take these steps and then to continue in these steps. But now I feel the fruits of the Spirit. I feel the love. I feel the self-control. I feel all of those that are pointed within the fruits of the Spirit upon me that make it easy for me to be a part of the community. So I just wanted to say that, and thank you.
Praise Yah. And I think, one of the most important things, Yah is constantly telling us, he reminds us at every feast to examine ourselves. That also means hold ourselves accountable. Rick and Jadiel will tell you, and they do the same with me. I'll say, hey, listen, correct me if I'm wrong. Was I off here? Did I come off a certain way? Should I have said that differently? Or should I say this? We do that in a community setting because we're leaders, right? And it's necessary to have that check and balance, not only with ourselves and with Yah, but with each other, specifically when you're trying to have one thought, one mind, one heart. And I think that we always have to do that. I have to do that with my wife. If I do something wrong, I have to go back and apologize. She'll do the same with me. We're not perfect. We're learning on the way, and we have to make sure that our character, even when we step outside of those lines, we're willing to put that foot back and say, okay, I don't want to do that again. Let's discuss this and see how we can do it right the next time. Those types of ideas, those types of checks always have to be at the forefront of your mind and heart when you say you're in covenant with Yah. You know, apologizing when necessary, or not apologizing when necessary and saying, no, brother, that's not what I meant. I'm disappointed that you felt that way, but maybe your thoughts are a little bit incorrect. Let me tell you what happened. If you can't see it that way, then maybe I did do something wrong. So let me apologize, right? Those types of conversations need to constantly be happening in order for us to stay linked together, right? So praise Yah. This is definitely good. Anybody else before I pick up in verse 4? Praise Yah. You shall not, verse 4, see your brother's donkey or his ox fall down along the road and hide yourself. Ignore it, is what it's saying. Ignore it. You shall surely help and lift them up again. You know, man, you know, you ignore your brother or your sister on the side of the road with a flat tire. You know, do you ignore helping a old lady crossing the street whose paper bag just busted and her groceries fell all over the ground? Do you keep driving? Do you keep walking? You know, just little things that we ought to think of. Go ahead, brother Tio.
Shabbat Shalom, Elder Rod.
Shalom, brother.
Shabbat Shalom, family.
Yeah.
I just missed the scripture. Where are we in the scriptures?
Oh, okay. We are in Deuteronomy chapter 22. We read from verse 1 through 7, and we're about to go into verse 5 right now.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it.
Praise Yah.
Praise Yah.
All right. So, verse 5, a woman shall not wear anything that pertains to a man, nor shall a man put on a woman's garment. For all who do so are an abomination to Yahuah, your Elohim. So, couple things to think about here. You know, Rick brought out, you know, the current culture, you know, and, you know, the way things are seen today and things that we have to tolerate. This isn't just about clothing. This isn't just about, you know, this is not saying a woman can't wear pants or jeans. You know, in this culture, men and women wore robes, long robes. Men and women wore earrings, jewelry. This is about deception, not just the clothing. The idea behind what Yah is saying here is that the woman is not to pretend to present herself as a man in a deceptive way. A man is not to pretend to present himself as a woman in a deceptive way, right? We are not to blur the lines, because when we blur the lines, you affront, you disrespect the construction of a man and a woman from Yah. And remember, these things were going on in the cultures, in the nations that were around them. They were not to emulate that or mimic that or deceive in that way. And this is what Yah is saying. So I just wanted to make sure we were clear on what it is saying. And yes, you know, this is what scripture tells us. These are the instructions Yah gives us. And yes, culture, as Rick brought out at this time, is, you know, taking part in these things and saying it's okay. So, you know, I'll leave it open for any thoughts on that, Sister Kim. You're still muted, sis. You're still muted.
I always forget to do that. I'm sorry.
No
But
problem.
I wanted to mention two things. The first thing is just like a quick thing with, how some people, they try to say that women can't wear pants because they say it's a man thing. I used to want to be a fashion designer in high school. You like have your little senior project thing, and I did mine on the history of fashion and how like things became certain things. And pants weren't invented for men. Pants were invented for like certain jobs. And obviously during those time periods, mostly it was men who were working. But if a woman were to be working in those particular fields, she would be wearing pants. So pants weren't invented for men. They were invented for to make a job easier, that was just like a quick thing I want to mention. But the other thing I want to mention, how you were talking about that this is farther than clothing. And something that I hear a lot of young people my age in their early 20s and stuff talking about is being masculine and feminine, and them not putting it, saying women should be feminine and men should be masculine. A lot of women are like, oh, well, I'm just masculine. And then men are like, oh, I'm just feminine, but they don't take it as it being wrong or like they're being deceived. They're confused about what a man and a woman should be. And because they're in this confused world, men think they're feminine and women think they're masculine. And I know so many women personally that will literally sit there and say they're masculine. I'm like, you're confused, sister. You're traumatized. You're brainwashed. You're not, but I want to mention that how a lot of people in my age group or, in that confusion of being masculine and feminine and saying that it doesn't belong to a certain gender.
Yeah, you bring up a lot of things. I think some of it is also cultural. Some of it is the way and the surroundings. Like, a man, sometimes you see young boys that that don't have a father in the house. And they take on the mannerisms of their mother, and it's up to the mother to correct that instead of thinking it's cute. And I see that happen. And likewise, girls that grow up with all brothers sometimes, tend to take on the traits of their brothers and want to do what their brothers are doing, hang around their brothers, and the mannerisms become that way. But absolutely, a woman is to be delicate, a man is to be of strength. Not that women can't be strong, because they should be, but in the way that is portrayed as far as a deceiving switch in what a woman presents herself to be and what a man presents himself to be, those lines are blurred, right? You got, what derived from California, the metrosexual clothing that anyone can wear, unisex clothing. Like you see a dude in skinny jeans, like, I'm sorry, man, I don't care what the fact, I'm not wearing those. And to my sons, you not either. And our middle son is a model. And he's very aware of the distinctions between clothing and the way they try to blur those lines. Like some of these shows he has to go to, he has to say, nah, I'm not going to do those things. I'm going to do these things because it presents a man, so those lines are blurry in this world. So we have to be mindful of the deception that is the deception and the perversion that is behind this particular verse. There's a deceptive and a perverted mindset that Yahuah is saying not to have for a man and for a woman. Brother Jadiel. Good stuff, Sister Kim.
All right, Shalom. So one of the things I agree with the history of it is that a lot of things kind of started at the same time with the industrial movement, and then the women having to work because of the war and them having to dress a certain way. And it also spurred up the feminist movement as well, where I can do anything you can do, I can do it better, foolishness, foolish mentality of trying to compete with each other instead of being happy with the way Yah actually made you to be.
Right.
So this is what I see this verse applying to, especially when it says that which pertains. Is not really necessarily focusing on any particular thing, but it's because it's like women can. There's many things that pertain to a man, besides just clothing.
Right.
In regards to a woman, it was more prevalent that if a woman wore if a man wore a woman's clothes, it was prevalent. Like, okay, you trying to, like you said, blur the line. So the image of Yah is revealed in man and woman. The characteristics that Yah possesses is within man and woman in their separate created places. And to move outside of that would be not only blurring the lines of man and woman, it'll be blurring the lines of the image of Yah. Like his image wouldn't be reflected anymore. And it's, I mean, I don't even want to kind of go all the way to now,
Right.
but you can clearly see people not trying to be his image anymore. Like they do not want to be in his image. So even at that time, the enemy has been putting in the minds of even the display, like the actions, So, but I wanted to also mention, before those jobs existed where the pants were created for those jobs, men still wore pants only though, so it wasn't, I'm not saying that women can't wear pants, because there's, like you said, there's skinny jeans. I wouldn't, because of modesty, I wouldn't promote skinny jeans even for women, but there's things that's made for women that men are starting to call fluid and use and wear blouses and look ridiculous. But as far as understanding like the principles that we need to apply today, it has nothing to do with how this culture is maneuvering. Is like we have to go back to see what is Yah's reflection and what image would best reflect Yah's reflection on us. And that's what we got to stick to, rather than moving along with the times, what they say a man and woman looks like, what they say, even if they say it's for a woman or for a man, we still have to be like, wait a minute, nah, that's not for a man. Skinny jeans, men's skinny jeans is not for a man. It doesn't matter if you made it for a man, it's not for a man in our society today. So we have to kind of go back to the principle, like what is it that Yah's telling us to reflect, and we have to maintain that reflection regardless of what everybody's allowed to do today, and that's, I want to bring that up as well.
Absolutely. The lines being blurred, the images, and like we talked about before, just the deceptive and perverted mindset behind that, because, people talk about, what they see today and that's not new. Like, have you studied ancient Greece? Have you studied Rome? Egypt? Like, this stuff was going on then, so it's now it's becoming okay to do those things. And even, there are ordinances and laws being put into place to protect that type of behavior, so as we navigate through this world, we have to maintain our focus on what Yah's instructions are for us. So praise Yah for that. All right. Verse 6. Anything else on verse 5 before we move on? All right. Praise Yah. Verse 6 says, if a bird's nest happens to be before you along the way, so this is in your travels, this is, Charles, this is in the wilderness as they are walking, in a tree or on the ground, with young ones or eggs, with the mother sitting on the young or on the eggs, you shall not take the mother with the young. You shall surely let the mother go and take the young for yourself, that it may be well with you and that you may prolong your days. So the idea here is for sustenance, for food. You could take the eggs and eat them, but what he's saying is don't take the mother, which will continue the line of that animal. Don't kill the mother for food. Take the eggs, leave the mother be. As you are on the way, as you are walking, as you are in the wilderness, outside. These are clean animals that are in the wild. You want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I mean, it's like what you said, just the responsibility goes deep, and I think that one of the things that we don't remember is that Yah gave Adam dominion over the earth, meaning that he was responsible for the earth,
Right.
the beasts, the plants, and the people. So we see the same thing within this covenant about restoring the dominion. But in order to give us dominion, he has to first restore in us responsibility. Why would he give us dominion when we're irresponsible? So first he has to establish and teach us responsibility for each other, for the beasts of the field, for preservation of nature. And then he can say, this is yours. Here's the new earth. You see what I'm saying? So this is the same thing he's been offering to us. He's offering to us now. He's been offering to them. This is what he established with Adam, dominion over the earth, but responsibility over these things. He had to prune the trees. He had to dress it, the garden. He had to take care of everything that Yah gave to him. So what Yah is developing is the mindset, like what you said, it's not doing stuff. It's the mindset that, it's my duty to take care of the things that Yah has created. And even in Proverbs, it says, that a righteous man regards the life of his beasts. So we're walking around here, you seeing animals like, just kick an animal to the curb, just because you're more dominant than them.
Yeah.
It's something that Yah created. If Yah is giving the sparrow food, that means that Yah is paying attention to the sparrow. You don't come around and just take the sparrow's nest and do whatever you want to it when Yah is the one that is blessing the sparrow. You are now interrupting Yah's hand, his handiwork, instead of being a participant. Yah, this is a beautiful view that Yah wants us to actually be a participant of what he does for even nature. Because Messiah makes mention, he takes care of the sparrow. How much more will he take care of us? And now he's telling us to take care of the sparrow in the Torah. So it's just beautiful how he wants us to participate with him in how he blesses the earth. And I think this will develop in us the character that we need to have in order to possess the earth. So praise Yah.
Yeah, absolutely. Responsibility and freedom at the same time. You're free as you go by the way to partake, to eat. But the responsibility is don't eat the mother because she continues the species so that there will continue to be enough. So that tie-in, that responsibility, the freedom that Yah gives us, it's just like, Yah says, he sets you free from bondage, but then we got all these laws. Well, these laws are literally saving your life. They're protecting you. They're giving you longer life. You have the freedom to partake in what he sees as a boundary for you to live long and to live fruitfully. And we have to view it that way. Praise Yah. Go ahead, brother.
And what you just said, it just brought out the fruit of the Ruach, the temperance, right? Self-control. You can tell by the extinction of animals, the lack of self-control man has displayed. So it's kind of like understanding that he's even telling you, calm down, take what you need, and that's it. Like let it be preserved.
Right.
You know what I mean? So temperance, which is, self-control, the fruit of the Ruach, the Torah is structuring how we should display the fruit that we have within us. The discipline that we should, promote in ourselves. Like we need to not only humble ourselves, but we need to discipline ourselves. Take what you need. Just like going by the field and plucking the ears of wheat. take what you need. Don't start filling up buckets.
Right.
Take what you need and then move on. Yah wants us to develop the fruits of the Ruach, and a lot of these commands, or what people call commands, I would say instructions of the heart, is what he's doing. He's dealing with the heart. He knows that the problem is the heart and the mind, so he's dealing with the heart and the mind. He's not just telling you to do actions. He's dealing with who you are. So he wants you to become something. He doesn't want you to do something only. But praise Yah.
Yeah, and I like the words you used, extinct, because it's like extinct. An animal, a species going extinct is the ultimate picture of irresponsibility. I did this is years ago in Philly. Did this editorial on this woman who was arrested because she was like she had a stand selling artifacts, and she was selling artifacts of endangered species, tusks and certain bones. And but her story was like, I didn't go over there and kill these animals. I bought them from the guy who sold them. Well, you're giving them a reason to continue to do it. You're buying it from them and you're benefiting from them. There's responsibility there. Putting up, tusks on your mantle, from an endangered elephant, where there's only a certain amount left, all of these things, so irresponsibility in what we have dominion over, if anybody's up late watching TV, you see those commercials of these animals that are abused. Like, who does these things to dogs? Puts them in a yard, puts a chain around their neck, sits them on top of a pallet, and doesn't give them any water. Like, you know what I'm saying? Who starves animals to death? Like, why are you being this way? This is not responsible. But yet we have the instructions on how we should do things, regardless of what everyone else is doing, because the bottom line, this is a distinction. This is a distinctive line drawn in the sand where I can tell the difference between mine and those that aren't mine, right? So let's keep those things in mind as we continue.
Now, I wanted to also mention that a lot of psychological, with people who treat animals a certain way, usually end up being violent towards people as well. It's kind of like the nature, that natural, whatever you're displaying or developing in your nature is going to manifest all around, so it's like the same principle you have taking care of each other, taking care of animals, or taking care of animals is going to display with other people. Like, I see my son, he loves animals, he takes care of animals. I'd be telling him, kill that spider. He'd be like, no, daddy, let me take it outside. And I'm just like, what are you talking about? Kill that spider, but anyway, I'm from New York. I don't know. We don't like spiders, but anyway, but when he takes it outside, I let him take it outside. And I see the way that he treats other people. He treats other people the same way. Like, I'd be like, hey, get away from that guy. He's like, wait, why, daddy? You're just trying to, okay. So I'm learning, you don't really learn stuff like that in your character up north. You know what I mean? So I'm learning these things by seeing how the more we interact with nature, the more that we it's more that it takes it out of us too, takes out the beastly kind of mindset of survival out of your heart, and more now you're trying to preserve everything around you. But yeah, go ahead.
No, some of it should, some of that stuff will stay with you, and I think it's good to have as far as protective measures. But you're right. I mean, there is a drudge of concrete jungle mentality coming from these inner cities. Like the way I'm coming up, the way I came up, Darius is not coming up that way. I'm used to seeing a lot of things in the streets of Philly that he doesn't see down here in Virginia. You know what I mean? Simple things. And, I have to explain those things to him or break them down so that he does have that barometer to understand it, but yet still have the heart that Yah desires from him, because they should be aware. But yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. We had I'll spare y'all. Something happened last week with the dog. The dog, you know, went up against a groundhog, a big groundhog. Groundhog lost, you know, but when I had to clean it up, I took Darius out with me, and he was kind of feeling bad for the groundhog. It was, you know, that's his nature, you know, to feel bad for a dead animal. I'm like, I'm scooping this thing up and getting it out my yard, you know, but I could see the innocence in him, you know, and the, you know, the a dead, you know what I mean? And we, like you said, Jadiel, sometimes need to be reattached to those things because we had a shield growing up in the city, right? So absolutely, I completely understand. Sister Natasha's arm is probably hurting. It's been up so long, so I'm gonna call on you, sis. She done fell asleep. Brother Charles, did you hear the explanation of chapter verse 6?
Shabbat Shalom.
Some of it.
Okay, I'll go back to that. Go ahead, Sister Natasha.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize I had it on mute. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
I'm just very touched by the fact that you're discussing this topic. You know, I grew up in Los Angeles myself for about 7 years, and I understand about what you said about having a shield. But growing up in India, I grew up in Bombay, and I lived in Bombay is a very large metropolitan area like New York. And I remember as a kid, I would always draw close to animals versus humans. And that's something that I always had. And, you know, when you talked about how you treat animals as, and treating people, it's really very closely linked, because I remember my grandmother had tried to get me married to this Indian fella who was educated and etc. And well-to-do financially. And we had gone out for lunch because they wanted me to get to know him. So there was a dog laying in the middle of a street, and it was hurt. And I had told that guy, hey, pull over, I want to help the dog. He said, no, it's just a dog, leave it. And at that moment, I can judge his character. I could see, wow, if he treats this dog like this, what's he going to treat me like? You know, what kind of character is this, you know? And I said, no, I don't want any involvement with this person. But, you know, reading the scriptures, the Father has put in there that to kill an animal is a sin. If you're killing it for food, he accepts it. But just to kill for a thrill is really a sin. And it's, I don't remember what the scripture is. Maybe you could look it up, but it does say that. And when I found that, I was so glad that the Father has even put that in there, because a lot of these people on earth, they think that they have this God-given right to just mistreat animals as they please. And, you know, whenever I have requests coming in to partake petitions for animal rights, I always include that in there for the lawmakers to know that it's a sin for them to allow laboratory testing and killing for trophies and skinning these animals alive. And even I've seen Christian people who were like Bible reading people being cruel to animals, you know, and all these things. People think that they just have this right, like it's my right. God gave me the right to have dominion over animals, and I could just do whatever I want. And that's not what we're supposed to do. And I'm just really glad that you brought this out, because it really needs to be talked about. We are the superior, God's given us a superiority over animals and plants and everything else, but it doesn't mean that we can destroy everything. And I just want to thank you for talking about this. Shalom, shalom, shalom.
Absolutely. You know, we definitely believe here in talking about all of Scripture, you know, making sure that's the main reason we go verse by verse, to leave no stone unturned. And when we do that, everything is addressed, you know. So praise God. Yeah, we we love to have these discussions because they're contrary to what a lot of fellowships are doing. But understanding his word requires dissection, requires study, requires investigation. Matter of fact, Yah calls us to do those things. One of my favorite verses is Acts 17:11. It says, "For the Bereans were more noble than those in Thessalonica, for they believed the word with all readiness, but then went to check to see if those things were actually so." So they investigated the scriptures to make sure what was being taught to them was actually true and accurate. And that's what we do here. Praise Yah. But Brother Charles, we discussed chapter 22, verse 6. And this is just the instruction of being responsible for animals, allowing, when you're in the wilderness and walking on the way, by the way, you are allowed to eat the eggs of the bird, but you are not allowed to eat the mother. She remains, so the species continues. So that's what that verse is about.
Okay, that was raw, man. I swear I did not see that.
Oh, yeah. Praise
Praise
God. Absolutely. All right, so let's continue. Let's pick up in verse 8 and read through verse 12. Verse 8 through verse 12. Who's my next reader? Sister Kim. Unmute yourself. Oh, there you go.
All right. I'm reading out the Hallelujah scriptures just so you know what version I'm reading. 8 through what verse?
8 through 12. Stop at 13.
All right. When you build a new house, then you shall make a parapet for your roof, so that you do not bring blood guilt on your house when one falls from it. Do not sow your vineyard with different kinds of seeds, lest the yield of the seed which you have sown and have the fruit of your vineyard be defiled. Do not plow with an ox and a donkey together. Do not put on a garment of different kinds of wool and linen. Make tassels on all four corners of the garment which you cover yourself.
Praise God. Anything stand out to you there?
I would like to make a comment on the wool and linen thing, because I know there's some laws in the thing that people don't understand. Like, why would God say don't put wool and linen together? Well, I was doing research and I saw that this college did a study on the frequency that different kinds of fabrics give off. And wool and linen, one gives off a positive 100 frequency and the other one gives a negative 100 frequency. And whenever you would put them together, it would zero out the frequency. And in the study, it showed that when you put them together and it zeroed that out, it could have a direct effect on your immune system.
I've heard that something similar to that before.
A quick thing, so I think that, everything in the physical is connected to spiritual. So I think if it could weaken us physically, it could probably, I'm not saying it definitely does, if it could weaken us physically, it could probably weaken us a little bit spiritually too, if it does have that physical to spiritual parallel.
Yeah, absolutely. That's quite possible. I also know that there was, all of these instructions are calling us to be different, right, than the other nations. And I think there was some idolatry with the other nations, which also wore these types of fabrics together also. So it could have been also in a form of worship. So every aspect of us, from the way we dress, to the way we eat, to the way we think, to the way we present ourselves, the way we sow the ground, the differences between an ox and a donkey, one is clean, one is unclean. They walk differently, they move differently, they have different jobs, although they can do the same job but don't do it together. So all of these things were to be separated based upon the way Yah wanted us to preside. So yeah, thank you for that insight. But I did hear that before. Anyone want to add anything to that? Brother Charles.
Yeah. Oh,
You go ahead if you want to, bro. Or
No, you had your hand up. That's why I called.
okay. I just wanted to give a quick correlation of what I seen, and the other one is just a question: does it correlate with it? So, Leviticus 19. Hold on.
Zephaniah 1:8 also talks about strange apparel, so that's also something we should consider in knowing that these things were opposite of what Yah and the way he wanted us to present ourselves.
Right. So Leviticus 19:19 says, "You shall keep my statutes. You shall not let your livestock breed with another kind. You shall not sow your field with mixed seed, nor shall a garment of mixed linen and wool come upon you." So that's the first correlation I found, and this is a kind of a question. Does this tie into that? Tie into all of this? 2 Corinthians
Chapter 6, verse 14 to 18. Yep.
Okay, I don't even think. So,
you want to read it?
Yeah, I'll read it. 2 Corinthians 6:14 to 16. Do not be unequally yoked together.
Read all the way to 18.
All right, hold on. I gotta get the full chapter. I'm on my phone. Do not be unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship has righteousness with lawlessness? And what common communion has light with darkness? And what accord has Mashiach with Belial or Baal? Or what part has a believer with an unbeliever? And what agreement has the temple of Elohim with idols? For you are the temple of the living Elohim. As Elohim said, I dwell in them and walk among them. I will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. Therefore, come out from among them and be set apart or separate, says Yahuah, or the Master. I don't know which one. Do not touch what is unclean, and I will receive you. I will be a Abba or a father to you, and you shall be my sons and daughters, says Yahuah Almighty. So praise Yah. Yeah.
Praise Yah. Coming out of Ezekiel and Isaiah there, the idea is separation, right? We are to be separate from those things that are unclean. Brother Jadiel.
all right. So when I'm looking at the garments and the mixing, that I think it also is connected to, the that which pertains to man, the same principle, like keeping what Yah has created to be separate from what is not, what he did not create, to connect with it. So the fabric, one is from plants, one is from animals, to put those two things. I understand I heard about the study that they did in Israel. And I was more looking at it like, how linen was pertaining to the priests, and how and royalty, and how wool was kind of like the normal way of clothing. And I think that there was another thing, not cotton, but I think that there was something else that I read later on. I'm not sure what it was, but anyway, I think that there was also not only just a a deeper meaning, but more of a simplistic meaning, like, you know, this is what I made this to be. This is what I made this to be here. You know, to keep this separate. This is what I put on over here to represent this. This is what I put, you know, linen is usually represent like royal or upscale and things like that. And wool is like keep you warm. It's like, I think he wanted to maintain the functionality of both. And they may have that frequency. I'm not really too familiar with frequencies and stuff like that, but they may have that thing in it. But at the same time, there is a different purpose. Like you can't keep warm with linen, and you know. So I think Yah wanted to maintain, just like how he wants us to maintain hygiene and simple things like that. He also wants to make us to maintain functionality on keeping warm. Like they were in a hot climate, so keeping warm, keeping cool, you know, all of those things I believe is involved, because Yah's taking care of these people. They just came out of the wilderness, you know, Deuteronomy. They've been walking in the wilderness for 40 years, and now they have to display themselves as a nation to the world, you know. So I think that he's being very involved, even with the simple things like how to display certain things, what certain things function, how well it functions separate, and things like that.
Absolutely. Great input, brother. You know, and the idea behind what he's telling us here, and I like Charles's tie-in, is to be separate, you know, do things the way I prescribe them, you know, follow the instructions that I'm giving you, wear the clothing, don't eat that food, eat this food, don't worship that way, worship this way, total separation from all that was around them, so they could be set apart, they could be kadosh, praise Yah. Bat Zion, Israel.
It's Caroline. I forgot to change the name.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yes, I just have a question,
Sure.
because it always come out when, well, I was reading something, but it's about the blend of clothes, like you was just saying, the wool, the linen, and the silk.
Silk.
And,
Okay, that's what you
yes,
were talking about, Jadiel? Silk.
like the silkworm,
Okay.
silk, and I just wanted to know, because it says like we supposed to have tassels on our clothes, because I have an issue of buying clothes, but you just said we could wear jeans or pants, but like you said, some of them jeans and pants, they fit different.
Yeah.
I'm modest, so I don't, you know, I don't try to wear what the world wear. I'm different. And not to say that I'm better. It's just in my conscience, because when I put on mixed blend clothes, my body break out. I have a rash.
Hmm.
Constantly have to take some type of cortisone cream when I wear mixed blend. Like if I wear them socks that got spandex in them, they make my feet swell.
Hmm.
So it's like, what brand of clothes do we supposed to be wearing? Like, is it supposed to be? I know linen feels good, because linen, like he said, the linen in when it's hot outside, the linen is breathable.
Yeah.
You can all the breeze while wearing linen, but if you wear something other than linen, you're gonna burn up. And we got all these clothes.
Spandex could be, you know, could be dangerous, specifically if it's restricting your circulation, you know.
Mm-hmm. It does.
You have sometimes your circulation needs to be restricted, specifically if you have a injury of some kind, but to have it on all the time would make your feet swell. I could see that.
Right. I have to, if I put it on, I can't leave it on all day. If
Right.
I have a appointment, I wear it to go to the doctor, then I take it off when I get home, because now in summertime I can wear sandals.
Right.
Yeah. So that was my question. Like,
yeah, I think modesty is definitely the best policy for men and women. I mean, there's unmodest clothing for men, you know. Men shouldn't, you shouldn't necessarily be walking around in clothes that you would wear to the gym that are tight, or
exactly.
form-fitting. Women, shouldn't be doing that either. Always you look for loose clothing, something that's comfortable. It can be stylish, but just, as long as it's not, obstructing or revealing, too revealing,
Right.
showing.
So what about the tassels?
What about what?
Tassels. When it says we're supposed to have tassels on our clothes.
Yeah, tassels or fringes. Actually, Jadiel and I were talking about this. He wanted to share a little bit about that. You on, Jadiel?
Well, thank you, Brother Rod. So I was doing research on the difference between tassels and a fringe. And I think that when we connect it to Numbers 15, there's a blue ribbon involved. It doesn't mention the blue ribbon here, but we know that it has to, because Deuteronomy is a reiteration of Exodus, Leviticus, and Numbers.
Right.
So it has to be involved. So when you combine the two, you start to notice that the blue ribbon is the fringe, and the border, when you say the four quarters, is just like mentioned in different scriptures, like Israel scattered to the four corners. That doesn't mean that there's four specific locations,
right,
but it's all around the earth. All around the earth is where Israel was scattered. So the phrasing was, you will be cast to the four quarters of the earth. So the mindset of four quarters, many people put it on certain spots of their body, but there is no four quarters on your body. Is the border of your clothing goes around, like the east and west, north, south of your clothing connect. So when you're looking at put it on the four quarters, you're talking about putting it around the border of your garment. So when you look at the word fringe, it says that the ribbon of blue is the fringe. The ribbon of blue is the fringe in Numbers 15. Numbers 15 verse 39. So the tassel hanging down, every nation had tassels hanging down. Babylon, if you look up Babylonian garments, they have tassels hanging down. If you look at Egypt had tassels hanging down. We were not instructed to wear fringes until after we left Egypt. So them wearing tassels in Egypt wouldn't mean that that's from Yah, because Yah didn't command us to wear tassels or wear fringes until after we left Egypt. So in my mindset, when I was looking at the historical perspective of it, I personally believe that the ribbon of blue on the hem of your garment going around the border of your garment is the fringe that we need to look at to remember the covenant, not a tassel hanging down on four locations of your body, right, but the blue ribbon all around the edge of your garment. I don't believe tassels even is a fringe. I believe that they implemented tassels in the Strongs just like they implemented Trinity in the Strongs. It's just because of what people were familiar with at the time. That's why when you look up the word fringe, it's two definitions. There's festoon, and then there's a tassel. A festoon is not a tassel. A festoon goes across, and a tassel comes down. So at the time, James Strong was looking at what was familiar in society, which the Ashkenaz, the Jewish people was wearing the tallits and the tassels hanging down and all of that. Every nation was doing it, actually. So anyway, so I came to the conclusion that the fringe is the blue ribbon going at the border of the garment, going across and not hanging down on four specific locations of your body.
Right. So the four quarters literally is the whole. Four quarters equals a whole. So that would mean all the way around. So if we're split, if we're scattered to the four quarters of the world, that means scattered all over the world. In that same manner, the fringe would go around the whole border versus hanging down in four parts. Is your surmise? Praise God. Sister Sheena, and then Sister Kim.
Yeah, so I was gonna say, similar to what was already said about the separation. So I was looking at verse 10 where it said like not to plow a donkey and an ox together because they have different purposes, even though they can both do work and they're both used for work. It wouldn't be good to pair them together, but to leave them separate. And then I was also going to comment on the tassels of a question I had was that I don't understand why people had them as like four, like I would see people with four of them, like, but it's not actually on the corner. So I didn't understand like why people did that as opposed to the rim of their garment. But Jadiel just explained that. Right. Why that people put it on the floor, but it really shouldn't be, because we don't have four corners on our garment. It is like the rim all around.
Right. Right. Very good insight. Thank you, brother. Sister Kim.
I really just have two questions. Not in this verse in Deuteronomy with the ribbon going on the four corners and stuff, but I don't remember if it was in Numbers or not, but one of them mentioned about how it's supposed to be, it says men, but like some people like debate it's for everyone. Some people say it's just the men that do it. I was wondering what your intake was, because I've seen people debate both sides. And then I had one more question with the, do you think that we should be putting a blue ribbon on all of our shirts or our dresses and skirts and stuff? Is that something that we should be doing with our clothes?
Those are really good questions. Jadiel?
I knew you was gonna do that. I knew it. I felt it. I was just like, oh, watch this. Okay, that threw me off. So it said to tell the children of Israel, Numbers when you in Numbers 15, it begins with expressing to all the children of Israel. There's specifics when he says the Levites, or when he says the priests, or when he says the children of Israel. It was reflecting all of us are supposed to display the same principles, so all of us are in the covenant. Like women are also in need of the same thing men is in need spiritually. Like we both need to remember the covenant. We both need to remember the commandments and remember our nature compared to Yah's nature and things like that. So it doesn't say men, it doesn't say Levites, it says tell the children of Israel this. And when they made a declaration, the men, women, and babies was there to listen to Moses' declaration. So you said, with that in their mind, do you need to put it on your clothing? Yeah, I think I've flipped based off of, well, not based off of understanding, whatever I thought it was. I didn't really do research on it. So when I saw the popular view, I did that. And when I saw another popular view, I just did that, but when I did research and I found out what it was, and according to what I found, I just said, yeah, I need to do this. And I felt that impression, like we need to do it. So my wife and I started just putting it on all of our clothes, all of my shirts, my kids' shirts, the nice shirts that they wear and that they wear to the gatherings and things like that, to put it on those shirts, so I even put it on my work shirt so I could have it on while I'm working and things like that. So I believe that it is necessary to be that representation all the time, according to the scripture. But my wife wanted to say something too.
Shabbat Shalom. So to make it a little bit easier, instead of putting them on all of my skirts, I put the blue ribbon on a few, I don't know, you call them like shawls or mantles, and I just wear that over my clothes. So I don't have to fringe all of my shirts and all of my skirts. I just have them on a few like overshirts, and I wear them on the overshirt as like a mantle.
You guys are lucky. I don't have no mantles and dresses, or I don't have those things. So I put them on the bottom of a lot of my shirts, especially the ones that I not my t-shirts and stuff like that, just like the shirts that I wear outside and things like that. So I believe that we should be diligent to reflect those things that is written, so that way we won't be, you don't want to be out there where you're telling somebody follow the commands, and then somebody comes across a command and then you're like, oh well, I just didn't want to put it on this shirt up today. We want to be diligent with what y'all said. Anyway, that's my perspective. Back to you, Rod.
Praise Yah. Praise Yah. I do not have them on all of my clothes. I do have certain shirts that I wear that have them. I don't have them on for every day. But actually, my wife and I were talking about applying that principle, that command, and doing that, finding a way to incorporate that in our clothing. But currently, no, I do not. To answer from my perspective, well, not necessarily my perspective, but my current situation. I have some shirts with them, and some shirts do not have them that I do wear. Barbosa family.
Shabbat Shalom. The question goes to Brother Jadiel. Do you have an example of how did you do with your shirts? Is that something that you could perhaps throw on the website, bring on for next Shabbat or so we could have a better idea on how to do with the shirts as well? I have here some tzitzits that I bought, but it's not easy to have them enough of them, or have always for all of the clothes. Also for cost and everything. And the other question I would have is taking into consideration the whole principle behind of it. Like, do you think would be something? How could I put that? I'm sorry, my baby is here. My baby is crying.
Yeah, I think as far depending on the type of work that you do, the zeets, like the four hanging down, I think they could be very dangerous in an industrial setting. But the fringes, what we're discussing, they go all the way around, will probably be the best bet and much safer. And you could always tuck it in while you're working, while you're doing the machinery, and take it out when you're not. So depending on what you do.
Okay.
Use your own
Also,
for safety reasons.
and tassel on a bracelet is not with the command though, because command is to put it on your garments, and so a bracelet with tassels is kind of like, any ornament, like there's Persian rugs that have tassels at the edge of the Persian rugs. That's Persia. But anyway, that's a different conversation. But yeah, it says to put it on your clothing, not on like any ornaments. But
praise God. Sister Diane.
Shalom, family. Yeah, after what Elder Jadiel just said, I don't know. Yeah, you just made my eyebrow go up on that one, Brother Jadiel. What I do is I put mine on my purse. I don't necessarily, because I don't have them on all of my clothing. Well, so when I go out, I don't always have them. I'm not always wearing them. However, when I go out, I always carry my handbag, always carry my purse. So, and it's on my shoulder, or strap it on, like a crossbody type of thing, so that they're always exposed. And I have seen people look at them. No one has asked me anything about them. They look at them, they look at me. Of course, I kind of look different anyway when I'm out and about in my dress. I do wear pants sometimes, mainly in the winter, but I'm like Sister Carolyn, I'm going to be very careful. And I think we've kind of had this conversation here before as to how I look at them. Modesty is the most important thing, and that's for male and female. But I just wanted to interject that if that could, I don't know if my purse to be considered an ornament. If anything, it may be something women carry purses and some men, but it's more of women that carry bags. We carry purse. So I put mine in my purse. So if anyone may ever think about that. And one quick thing about that linen, mixing the linen with wool, there is scripture that I think is in Exodus where we're called a priestly nation, right? We were called to be priests, and if they were to be set apart. And I don't know how deep this can be connected. I can stand for. There is room for correction if I don't have this correctly. If we are a nation of priests, yeah, and the priests wore linen garments. So, that could be another reason, set apart because, as Sister was saying, one is made out of a plant and the other one is made out of an animal. And, for us to wear animal skins, or the hair of the animal, I don't know. That was just a thought that came across because we are called to be a set aside priestly nation, and the priests wore linen, so that may have some tie-in. I'm not really sure. Shalom.
Shalom, yeah, and just keep in mind the very idea of the fringes are to remind us to keep his commands. So that is the purpose for the instruction, Brother Jadio. Oh, go ahead.
So I forgot most of what I was going to say. But as far as I think you mentioned the purse, Sister Diane, and the purses are ornament too. They had purses at that time as well. I think they mentioned the purse where they keep their money. They had bags and purses and all these different things, and Yah decided to mention to put it on your garment. So I think that the specifics is very important. Though we're talking about principles that apply to different things, I wouldn't say that you're limited to your garment, that you can put it on your bag too. But I'm not going to say that the command is okay or satisfied by doing something other than putting it on your garment. But if you put it on your garment, I would say if you want to put it on your bag, if you want to put it on a bracelet, if you want to put it on whatever, you can do that too. You're not restricted in the command, but there is a specific to put it on the border of your garment, to put it on the border of your clothing, so I think that we should stick to the specifics of the statement as well as taking the principle and applying it to other things as well, but make sure that we stick to the specifics also. But pertaining to the border, I'm not sure what, based off of how we're expressing it, to be on the hem on the border, right? So the blue ribbon going across the hem of your actual clothing. Not sure why that would be unacceptable in certain places. You know what I mean? It's, unless it's like you go to Catholic school, there's a uniform or something like that. I understand it's different, but just a testimony of it is like, a lot of times how we display ourselves is also an indicator for others to recognize us as well. That is also walking in the walk. Just like the responsibility, a lot of the things that we've been talking about is what Yah wants us to do to manifest like to his people, or to reflect it, to let it shine, to let it show, not like, make sure you put this around, make sure you put this blue ribbon around your underwear, and that only when you see it, then you'll remember me. It's more like it's my people is going to be seen, So, and also there's a lot of testimony I have of of walking to the stores and people would shout it out like, "Shalom, brother," from like a distance. And those are really nice moments, like to catch where the, people ask the question why you have that, and you're able to give them more insight and things like that. So there's a whole lot of different reasons why, besides it's only for you to remember it. And, it's more like it's for Yah's people to display, to show to the world. Yah doesn't just want us to, he doesn't want us to keep forgetting where we need to to remember it. He also wants us to remember it and then manifest that we know his command. God says.
Right. So I'm just going to recap just so everyone understands. So the idea or the instruction that it being for you stands true. It is for you. It is for you to remember. But the whole picture is that what you wear will be seen. So the only reason to cover it up would be for safety reasons, if your job calls for it, or if you have a uniform where you couldn't show that. But to cover it up, to hide it, to be ashamed of showing it is prohibited. That's the picture. So just wanted to make sure we were all clear on that. Praise Yah. Sister Kim, you'll be the final comment, and then we'll close him. You're on mute again. You're on mute.
I'm sorry, but I was looking at, and we were talking about, you know, the mixing of stuff and the tassels and stuff. I was wondering if we could talk about verse 8 and about the blood guilt.
Oh yeah, the parapet. So verse 8 is about being responsible for your property. So you have this house, you have a roof where people go to gather. Be responsible and put a barrier, a banister, a gate even to protect people so they won't fall off. That's what that's about. When you build your house, then you shall make a parapet, that's a barrier for your roof, that you may not bring guilt of bloodshed on your household if anyone falls from it.
And what does the Torah, because I know in another spot, I can't remember where, what does it say about what happened, like what would be the result of what would happen to us if we did have blood guilt from that?
Oh, the responsibility of, you know, someone dying would be on your household, would be on you. You know, there's a lot of talk about the avenger of blood, a person from that family coming after you for judgment, for what is it called? Neglect, irresponsibility. You know, if something happens on my property, you know, that I could have prevented by some safety measure, I'm liable for that. I could be sued. I could even go to jail. You know, so this is what Yahuah is doing. The responsibility is not just with those things, it's also with everything around you, the animals, the field, the land, what you wear, what you eat, your community. The safety and the security of all that is his is each and every one of our responsibilities, is the idea behind what he's telling us. Brother Jadiel?
Yeah, I wanted to just confirm what you're saying. You know, even now, like in certain like suburb areas, if you walk and you slip in front of somebody's house, like they can sue you. You're responsible for the endangerment of somebody slipping, you know, in front of your house. You know, so and when you look at just the consistent way that the Hebrews did things, even when it was Sukkot, sometimes they would put Sukkots on top of their roof. You could see that in Nehemiah chapter 8 and 9, where when they were celebrating Sukkot, they put it on top of their roof. Or it talks about shout for joy when you're worshiping Yah on top of the roof. You know, there's a lot of things where they was on top of the roof. I know back in the days, you had like a patio on top of the roof. It was just like, that's where you hung out. That's where it was. So I think that Yah is looking at how they're doing things and saying that you need to be protective. If you're going to do this, if you're going to be on top of the roof, then you need to make sure that you are protected, because if someone falls off of your roof because you guys want to hang out on a roof, it's on you because you did not take the safety measures. And I think that the safety measures is very important. That's a mindset that many of us really don't think the Torah teaches. Safety measures, like preventative measures.
Absolutely.
Yah wants us to be preventative of danger, wants us to be preventative of sin, and this kind of brings us to the commandments. Transgression of the commandments is sin. So even in regards to sin, we need to take preventative measures. What would keep us from falling into sin? Well, put those barriers up to prevent us from even engaging in sin. So that principle was also applied there too. But it's funny that it talks about falling, and that's the same language for sin, like falling into sin. So I think preventative measures is our duty as well, not just, and this is what we do. I think Brother Rod mentioned this last week about things that people don't know that we do to prevent certain things. People we end up talking to that we have to kind of keep separate to prevent certain things, because it's crazy if we just don't allow any barriers. It's just, that's not the way we should do things. We need to guard the commandments and allow the commandments to guard us. But praise Yah.
Yeah, absolutely. June will tell you, I'm very serious about safety, just, understanding, the responsibility of being safe in the home, when we travel, just telling her and Darius different things, just through life, and just also profession, understanding different things that can happen, on the job while I'm at work, all of those things are always circling my mind to make sure my family is taken care of. Yah has put that innate in us as part of our character. And as you can see, he wants that to be a part of his community. So praise Yah for that. Great study. Jadiel, thank you for your participation and insight, and all of you for your questions and interactions and the things you add. That's what makes the study beautiful, that we interact, and makes it different from any other experience. Praise Yah. So next week we'll pick up where we left off, chapter 22, verse 13. Please read ahead. We'll try to get into chapter 23 as well as we continue to walk through Torah together. Praise Yah. For all of you, have a blessed week. All of those who are in need of anything, please feel free to reach out to us. You need to talk to the elders, reach out to us. We're here to serve you. All right. Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Thank you.
Shabbat shalom.
Good blessing.
Shabbat shalom.
Toda Robah, praise Abba Yah, from whom all baraka flow. We hope this video encouraged you today. Don't forget to study to show yourself approved and be like the Bereans who tested everything, according to 2 Timothy 3:15 and Acts 17:11. We assemble every Shabbat and during the week with like-minded believers all over the world, virtually, and sometimes we gather in person for feast days. We have something for the whole family, including children. Discover more on our website at assemblyofyahuah.com, where you can apply to join, give to biblical assembly needs, and find many biblical resources to help you grow in your walk with Yah. To know when we publish new videos, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Jeremiah 33:3 tells us, call to Yahuah and he will answer you and tell you great and unsearchable things you do not know. Much shalom.